Sometimes you just have to see through someone's eyes to know their version of the truth. This is a quote in Dan Brown's novel Origin, which was released in 2020. And this is one of the many quotes in Dan Brown's novel, which makes his books really interesting and something that you must really read to understand the different perspectives of life. And this quote really hits different because sometimes we believe that a lot of the truth are universal, and we have decided that you know that's the that's how it should be, but it could be different, and it applies to every single truth that we know. With this, I'm gonna rate all of the Dan Brown books in terms of how much I liked it. And again, this is totally my perspective. It could be different. It could be different from the popular opinion, and it could be different from your opinion also. So, starting out with Digital Fortress, my first ever novel that I read of Dan Brown, and why this novel really hits hard for me is that I was about 12 years old when I read this book, and this was one of my first big novels that I read. And this really changed and impacted my life, that I started gaining interest in technology, science, took up science in my higher education, and then took computers in my graduate graduation, and now working as a IT professional and engineer in the tech space. So that's just a backstory of myself. But this book is the reason why this is very interesting is because it kind of hits the most in today's world, with the a lot of the AI companies and a lot of the tech companies trying to take over people's privacy and everything. And this book really addresses how everything, the whole cryptography and everything, it was just a hoax, and the real message of this book was how the government or the private organizations try to take over people's personal data and privacy. And why it really matters is, even though we have even though our privacy kind of matters, but we don't really think much about it, and we just say, okay, man, that's fine. You can access my privacy, you can access my personal data if it means that something bigger is about to happen in the world. But the point is, we are about 8 billion of us, and each of us are different. And the only thing that sets apart each of us is our privacy and our thoughts, which is unique across all people. And it is actually the most important asset that someone could actually have. And Digital Fortress kind of addresses that. So for me, this is one of my favorite books ever. I know this is a bit lower in the popular opinion and people's tier list, but for me, it's surely a must read. Moving on, the second novel, Deception Point, which I feel this might be my take, not the least favorite book of Dan Brown. A brief story about this is about how, they were trying to get the government funds and everything. Sorry. And fake asteroid, a meteorite, and I really like the whole movie like adventure in this book. But for me, if you want to read it, you surely can do. Moving on to the third book, which is Da Vinci Code, which is by far the most popular book in the Dan Brown series, most popular movie also. And it's worth it, it's worth the hype, and you should surely read this if you like, the whole mystery in terms of religion and everything. Uh, as message which I really liked in this book was about how a human is decided by his or her own actions instead of whatever lineage or anything could do. And this book really talks about it, but more about the most interesting thing about this book is about the twists and everything. And it is surely a must read, but I believe it could be different in terms of people's opinion. And now coming on to my favorite book ever in Dan Brown, which is Inferno. So Inferno is why Inferno is my favorite book. It's majorly about it's not just about the story, it's about how a person's opinion can really shape the world. And we'll talk more. I want to talk more about Inferno in another video, but the core message in this is sometimes we don't have the right to make decisions which will impact the world. And the thing is, we are still doing that. We are still making decisions which are impacting the world, even if it's small decisions. But then that is not, that could prove to be something bad for the world. And Inferno, which is kind of an antithesis to Digital Fortress, in which people's privacy is their own, and Inferno is about how people's choices could be very like bad. So I'm gonna talk more about this book later on, but surely moving on. Don't want to waste much time on it. So coming to the next two books, probably the most popular books ever in apart from the Da Vinci Code, Lost Symbol and Angels and Demons. I really like this book. I believe they're worth their hype, but I wouldn't place it at the same tier as Da Vinci Code, although people have placed them above Da Vinci Code. I really love the whole religion thing and the whole, it's pretty much Robert Langdon novels, Robert Langdon's story about addressing religions and everything, and the whole antimatter uh, thing. Yeah, I'm gonna put it at worth it because although I like the book, I believe other people have covered much more about it. And moving on, I'm just gonna uh, move on and say that I have not read Secret of Secrets, although I believe people have rated this very high, but I have not read it that much. I have not read it entirely. Only started it, so I'm not gonna read this one. So finally, moving on to the book which I said the first quote in this video about origin, and pretty much like the origin of the new era of Dan Brown novels, and it really addresses about how AI and technology and everything has taken over the previous books, which is religion, and this is also about the real world, how this is probably one of the uh, this is probably one of the books that addresses the new age, the current age, which is basically technology and AI and all. In Origin, they talk about something which is kind of eerie. It's like we have moved on from religion, and with the introduction of AI, with themselves, with thoughts and feeling, but in future, as per the book. So the end of religion and the start of technology. And I also want to cover more about this book. And this is one of the best book, I would say, for my taste. One of the latest book that I've read, and I am surely gonna put this as a must read and even higher than the Da Vinci Code. So here's my tier list, and it surely doesn't match as the popular opinion, but I believe that these books, at least the top four books, is something that you must really read because it will really change the perspective of how you see the world. And no, so yeah, I'm gonna cover more about some of these books later on.